I think we have an exciting day. I'm going to call it defining the challenge. As I was thinking just a minute ago, I really don't need to define the challenge. You all understand the challenge. We've been talking about it for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So I'm just kind of reminding you in the next 15 minutes the real challenges that we are facing in the manufacturing sector. And one of the overriding themes is that we are very good, still the most innovative country in the world. And we have the creativity is in our collective DNA. We have great institutions, agencies, and universities. We are creating great knowledge, great discoveries, but we have failed to translate them into creating products made in this country to create national wealth. Service sector shuffles wealth. Manufacturing creates wealth, not just good paying jobs, but it also has implications on national security, which we know. So last year, we did a whole bunch of roundtable meetings, talking to many of you who are here and many others, not just admiring the problem, but asking what the heck are we going to do about it? And we spent 1,200 hours, no PowerPoint slides, discussing what to do about it. So we reported our findings and recommendations last year in the report on manufacturing prosperity. And we just released a new report, which is actually an extension of that report, in fact, repeating the recommendations you made, only to emphasize the point. And in the context of new data and statistics that I would encourage you to browse through at least the figures and see where we are in the manufacturing. And just a couple of points here. Despite all the talk about reshoring and manufacturing is booming, if you look at the data, that's not true. Our productivity has fallen since 2011. It's almost close to 0.7% increase in product. Total factor actually fallen by 5.8%. And no, it's not the robots and automation that took away our jobs. That is total nonsense. Because of offshoring, that's why we lost 5 million jobs in the last decade. And robots and automation actually create jobs. In fact, the higher wage countries like Japan and Germany and South Korea, they have more robots, 2 to 3 times as many as we do. This is called a robot density, every 10,000 workers, how many robots. So it's not that. It's just that we're not scaling up. And the growth has strictly been in food and beverage industry, transportation equipment, and fabricated metals. In all other sectors, in all other 14 other sectors, we have a decline in manufacturing, even since 2011. And here are some numbers. You can see the advanced industries like pharmaceuticals, industrial machinery, communications equipment, computers and peripherals, we are declining. And of course, imports are certainly increasing in all of these sectors. And there's more data like that in the report, and I don't need to labor that here. Not just not creating jobs, but also manufacturing challenges, defense manufacturing challenges in response to the executive order. Many of you know the defense supply chain assessment that has come out with half of that is we've known for 10, 15 years, but there's a lot of new information about how the reliability of supply chains is threatened in materials, key parts, key components. Now, back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, the DoD has played, even prior to that, significant role in establishing aerospace industry, semiconductors, computers, internet. They not only funded the basic research, but the translational research, R&D, the Ds, a lot of Ds, development, demonstration, deployment, and procurement. That's how we established those industries. Now, the new thing now, of course, back then we didn't have challenge from the South Korea or Japan or Germany and other places. We have a globally competitive world we have. On top of that, the commercial market for the new technologies is a lot bigger than what DoD can make a difference. So DoD cannot solve all our problems, but it's an important point. So we really need a whole of government approach to solve this. Private sector, especially our multinationals, they do what's good for shareholder profits for 3 years, 3-month profit. In fact, majority of them, I don't want to name any companies, but they have over 50 to 70% of their revenues come from overseas, or 50% of their employees are overseas, over 50% of their corporate assets are overseas. It's a globalized world. So as a world as a whole, it's working just fine. It's just that it's not working out for us. So this invent here, create, manufacture there. We lived that mantra for 20 years, at least 25 years. The rush to offshore from parts to everything else. So any of these technologies, if you look at the underlying knowledge, the scientific discoveries, engineering inventions, is largely invented in the US. It's largely funded by our federal agencies, from NSF to Department of Defense and Department of Energy and NIH. So we created the knowledge. Obviously, we have not created wealth in these and many other sectors. And if you look at the innovation, we talk about how innovative we are, there's a difference. We are very good at discoveries and inventions. That's just the first step. That's like the first base. We are pretty good at getting to the first base, but not much beyond that. We haven't done much of that in the last 20 years when it comes to hardware. So when you go to the proof of concept prototypes, that's not science, it's engineering. There's a fundamental difference. We are falling behind in that, in our engineering talent. And when you actually get to pilot production and full volume production, that's where you have the real innovations, process innovations. Those are the crown jewels. And if you don't capture that, if we don't manufacture these high-tech products at scale, we lose our ability to innovate next generation products. That's happening as we speak. That's been happening. Since we have not done flat panel displays, we don't have the infrastructure and the talent and the know-how to make flexible displays. Oh, we are doing a lot of research, but we are not going to manufacture them here. Same thing with the nanotechnology. There are a lot of great ideas that are going overseas because we just don't know how to scale. 10 years ago, Amazon story, Willie, she pointed out how they tried to manufacture Kindle here, they couldn't. And there are hundreds of other stories like that. So the point is we are not completing that innovation cycle, and we are losing that learning by doing. And our competitors are really getting good at that. So leading the world in R&D is little comfort if all we are doing is subsidizing R&D for other countries, unwittingly. So as if that's not bad enough, because we are manufacturing there, we are innovating there. It makes perfect sense, because that's where the suppliers or manufacturers are. That's where the talent is. That's where the infrastructure is. That's where the investment is. So we are going from offshoring manufacturing to offshoring innovation. Innovation is about taking a promising idea and converting it into a product that meets societal needs, manufacturing it at scale. We are not doing that. We are offshoring innovation. Nearly 50% of the foreign R&D centers in China are from American multinational companies. That's where they're innovating. It happens faster there. And there is a survey that's in the report, 369 manufacturers. Why are you going to China to do your R&D? And those are the reasons. The top 3 reasons are proximity to manufacturers, to supply chains, to the markets, and yes, access to talent. They're very smart people over there. And also certainly lower development costs. One thing I want to remind you, it's not just China. Think about Germany and Japan and South Korea. They're higher wage countries. They have a manufacturing surplus in advanced manufacturing. They are competing with the same China that we are competing with. They seem to be winning and we are not. So we're going to talk about how are we going to create industries of the future. Are we? So if you think about all the agencies that are listed there, they are doing fantastic job what they're supposed to be doing. They're funding research through their labs and through universities. And once the technology is proven, academics will complain that the funding dries out, and that is true. Nobody cares once you show the shiny object. So we don't have any investment in engineering and translational research. And, so we are, of course, intellectual property theft is a big issue we need to address. But we are willingly giving away our technologies to other countries every day. And that's because we don't have the skills or know-how or infrastructure here. Two quick examples. Think about what's happening on the West Coast in Arizona about flexible displays. When it's ready for prime time for scaling, they partnered with South Korean manufacturer, and it makes perfect sense because that's where they have the knowledge and the infrastructure, how to make it. Same thing when we were in Texas, Austin, one of the roundtables, we had folks from Austin, Texas, that did the nanoprint technology, incredible technology, and we had Canon sitting right at the table. And they explained why. We asked them, why are you doing it in Japan? Why can't you make it here? They gave a very detailed and a compelling reason why they need to go to Japan, and we were thoroughly convinced that's the right thing to do. We just can't do it here. So if that's the trend that's been already happening, are we really going to, what industries are we going to establish in the future that actually not just create good jobs, but also helps us to really do the innovation? Because other countries know how to do innovation too. So this report, just read that. You know, MIT did a fantastic job with, you know, they raised about $3 to $4 billion in hardware startups. Most universities cannot come anything close to it. Maybe Stanford can. So usually we do the research and leave everything else to free market. These guys have actually able to get the funding to create the startups. 150, they studied. It's actually between 1997 and 2008. So this has been happening for quite a while. So none of them scaled in this country. After that report came out, we should all have taken a pause and say, okay, time's over. What are we going to do about it? And of course, we've written a few more reports, and we'll be writing a few. I don't think these reports are going to help. I think we know the problem, we know the solution. It's time we put it all together to do something before, hopefully, it's not too late. So there are many gaps in our innovation cycle, starting with universities. Nearly 60% of foreign graduate students in engineering are foreign students, and many of them are going back on their own, let alone our immigration issues, and we're not going to boil that ocean, but they're going back after learning very talented people. And a lot of the work that's funded by our federal agencies after 10 years of funding, when it's ready for prime time, our competitors from other countries are attracting these researchers in the labs to overseas. And you can't blame the universities for going there. You can't blame our other countries for doing it. They're doing what makes sense. It's just we don't have a strategy what to do with our good ideas. In that sense, we are quite exceptional. We just don't have a strategy. So right there are the leak. Then some of them make it to proof of concept prototypes like MIT did. Actually, MIT did that part in that example. But many places, all the IP is, you know, languishing in our tech transfer offices. And other countries are willing to invest and take the ideas overseas. That happens all the time. And we are not doing the pilot production, the license and startup, they're going over there. And certainly we're not doing manufacturing. So we just get to the first base. That's hard to score. You gotta kind of go around. And there is no easy home run here, unless you're doing an iPhone app or something. So what do we do is that we need to fund R&D in engineering and manufacturing. As I said, science is not engineering. We need to be doing a lot more of that. That's what we used to be good at. And we need to quadruple or tenfold increase in our funding for encouraging qualified domestic graduate students to pursue engineering. That's what we need to do. And we also need to establish, I'm just repeating what you all said, repeating about establishing translational research centers at universities so that the best ideas are scaled or matured right there before we send it over somewhere else. And we also need to, we've done this before, we can leverage the defense procurement. And the problem with that is defense wants drop-in replacement. By the time you go from a university lab prototype to drop-in replacement, a lot of things have to happen in between. You need patient capital to invest in development, a lot of development called engineering, and demonstration and deployment. So drop-in replacements don't come right after research. That's where DoD has to invest and leverage their procurement to create pilot production. We're in Indiana, the guy who got about $110 million from in 2009 or 10 for battery manufacturing, and he's bankrupt now. He explained that how if DoD or somebody in the government said, I'll buy the first 500,000 batteries from you, he could have taken that to a bank and raised money on his own and would have been in business today. So we need to connect the dots right here in Washington so that we have a more whole-of-government approach. And empower small and medium-sized manufacturers. They are the backbone for manufacturing. They never had China plan. They are here to survive or thrive or die, and many of them did. So they lack resources. They are the ones who need real help in terms of upgrading their equipment. We talk about Industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing. Other countries are helping small and medium-sized manufacturers, like Germany does. We need to do a lot more of that. Give them the real help they need. So that once you create that industrial commons, that knowledge and the capability, they will come. The big guys will come for scaling the manufacturing. And this is all up to pilot production. That's still not good enough. We need to scale. We need to have public-private investment funds we need to create so we actually have funds to scale for invest in manufacturing facilities. VCs don't invest. We all know that. Less than 4% of VC funding goes into anything to do with hardware. So much of that goes to software and biotech, and good for software and biotech, but then we don't have any funding for hardware, anything related to hardware. So we need to create this, and we need to have, here it is, if we just did what we did before, right, and then create a lot of this knowledge and then send it over. In fact, I would say what, if we double our investment, we spend about $150 billion in science and technology. If we double every program in Washington, D.C. for 10 years in a row, I don't think we will reverse the trend. Doing more of the same is not getting different result. What's missing is that piece that brings all the best ideas and have a strategy what to do with it and invest in the right places to scale and to create jobs and benefit national security. That's what we need to do, and this is what we talked about last year throughout the country. And invest in translational R&D, not just basic research, enable hardware startups, facilitate pilot production, and one thing that's missing in my slide is the growth domestic engineering talent. Now, it's not just how much we spend, it's what we invest in. Just take a look at this. We spend $150 billion, of which the generous count of what we're investing in manufacturing is $770 million. That's 0.5%. Look at the other countries who are doing really well with strong manufacturing infrastructure and trade surpluses. They invest significantly more, 3 to 8 times as much as we do in what's called industrial production and technology. If you look up the definition in OECD, that is the translational research, the engineering and manufacturing R&D. So we asked this question around the round tables, how much should we invest in? 1%, 2%? People thought we should invest 5%. 5% of $150 billion, that's a lot of money. So with all the budget constraints, where is that going to come from? So somehow other countries are doing it. I just want to give you a perspective on the budget constraints. We, based on US IP Commission, our own studies show that we are losing $2 billion a day just to China alone. And our imports from China grew by 200 billion. Now it's up to 350 billion or something. That's just China alone. Our total manufacturing trade deficit is close to $1 trillion. That's 900 billion. Our deficit in advanced technology products is 128 billion. That's the part I'm saying. I don't think if we double down on what we're doing, we are going to reverse the trend, have a surplus in advanced technology products without having a strategy, without investing in nurturing and maturing our good ideas, rather than just leaving it to free market. Free market has spoken. I don't know which word we did not understand in the last 20 years. It's not working out. So we need to be, so when you talk about budget constraints, we have so much money to lose every day. We're losing billions of dollars in couch cushions. I think we can invest what it takes to really beef up manufacturing. But it's not all gloom and doom. I just wanted to remind you about the challenges we are facing. There are some promising trends. The manufacturing is obviously no longer dull, dirty, or dangerous. We know that. It's a digital, democratized, and distributed. And actually, that plays to American strengths. Only if we invest in the right places in terms of helping our small and medium-sized manufacturers and other things we talked about. And here is the second one. I want you to read that. Maybe you did it already. We think it's youngsters don't care about manufacturing. We think they're not interested in manufacturing. Look at that. That's Proto Labs did this survey. Millennials are actually much more optimistic, and they think that is manufacturing is a high-tech career job compared to baby boomers. So that's a very positive thing, and we need to leverage that. We need to inspire them, provide the right kind of infrastructure to help, amplify it. By the way, the foreign multinationals, companies like Toyotas and Hondas and BMWs and Siemens, they seem to be investing in this country in manufacturing. They are doing their own workforce development, and they somehow find it attractive to be here, except our multinationals are busy going over to Vietnam or wherever they are busy thinking about now. So, but that doesn't matter. As long as they manufacture here, it doesn't matter where it's headquartered. That's a good thing. In fact, there are some good signs when it comes to battery and electric vehicles that are happening, although it's LG Chem and Volkswagen, doesn't matter. In fact, if you look at our report, a lot of the emerging technologies that the companies that are partnering with the universities are foreign companies, but as long as they manufacture here. So we need to create the right incentives for them to stay here and manufacture at scale. That's what matters. So in summary, from offshoring production to offshoring innovation, that is really a dangerous trend. We'll be just left with the distribution on Amazon if we don't do something about it, which is a good thing, but that's not enough. One more thing, the piecemeal approach, don't put Band-Aids on it. Don't spend another $50 million on a program that comes under a chopping block every year. That's a waste of time. Don't even bother wasting $50 million. It takes much more significant investment. The patients probably have got multiple bullet shot wounds, and I don't think you can cure that with fix it with a Band-Aid. So we need a national strategy, not just coordination. We need a strategy, what to do, and a real strategy that we can implement. We need a whole of government approach, and with a focused, sustained, not just something that goes maybe next year, the Congress may cut it, maybe the year after. No, a sustained investment, because the private sector isn't going to do it. If the government has played a significant role in the past, and government has an important role to play. Actually, if you think about the trade deficits, I think we have manufacturing trade deficit in just about every 15 of the 17 sectors. Only 2 sectors, aerospace and medical devices, are barely still positive, small positive. If you think about these 2 sectors, for those of us who believe that government should not intervene in the free market, government should not get involved, then those are the 2 sectors where we have government played a significant role, and government does. So finally, I just want to say that the other countries are not standing still. The onus is still on us. So with that, I'm excited that Senator Rubio is here, looks like. So I'm going to stop talking, and hope you all continue the discussion. Talk to whoever you need to. So we need to make the right investments in this country so we can build real industries of the future. If we have any shot at it, we should act now.